Hi, friends. It's Heidi M, and I'm back with an interview. This time, I'm speaking with playwright, actor, and producer Chantel Winters. Chantel, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Chantel, you are a theater maker, but you also have worked on screen. You are based here in Toronto, Canada. But maybe for folks who are not familiar with the work that you've done and that you do, you can give us a little bit of an intro about yourself as an artist.
Okay, sure. I'm Chantel Winters. I started as an actor. I've been doing it for a while, a lot of indie theater, a lot of fringe, and I guess over the pandemic, a little bit more film and television.
Mhm.
And that's when I started doing or learning how to produce for film and television because theater was not an option. But I had this play, Dear Miss Kitt, that I really, really was like, I need to put it out. I need to put it out. It's something that I've been working on for a while. And it feels like the right time now. People are starting to come back to the theater. And let me think. Yeah, I would say that's basically me. That's how I sort of came into producing and playwriting is just wanting to make my own work and not sort of wait for the industry to give me work.
That's right. So would you say that in terms of just going back a little bit, were you always interested in being an actor or in theater in some capacity, or was it something that you kind of learned that you were interested in later?
No, my whole life I've always wanted to do it. Since I was little, I was taking classes, I think like at Lorraine Kimsa Young People's Theater. I want to say grade five. Like, so for a while, I've been doing it, and it is my passion. I've stepped away, I come back all the time. It's just
Right.
something that I really enjoy doing.
Okay, that's great. It's also like a shout out to the availability of some theater workshops and learning for kids and here in the city. So we do have some great access. So now that you were using kind of the pandemic to focus on Dear Miss Skit, which is what we're going to talk about today. Can you talk a little bit about your writing process? You said you were kind of focusing on the play over the last few years, and what was sort of the impetus to write it out and make it a story that focuses on like mother-daughter or familial relationships?
Okay. Yeah, that's a that's a good question. I started writing it, I think maybe 2018 in a writing course at U of T I took. But the story was somewhere in the back of my mind. It was sort of a mix of things. But what I say to people is it really started when I was a little girl, and my uncle would talk about Black Hollywood. And I have a very distinct memory of him talking about like Eartha Kitt was the best Catwoman, and just being like, there was no black Catwoman. What are you talking about? This was in the 90s, right? It's not like today where you have all sorts of superheroes, all different colors.
Mhm.
So it was like mind-boggling to my young mind. And so there was that in the back of my head. And then there was this writing course that I was taking where I was trying to like flesh out the story of how this is passed down. But the story of the mother-daughter relationship came I guess because I was a young mother,
Yeah.
and so that sort of sparked it, and I combined it with that those memories, and that's sort of how Dear Miss Kitt started.
Mhm.
And I guess it picked up some momentum, and when it got into the Broadway Bound Theater Festival, well, Broadway Bound Theater Festival, which
Nice.
is a curated festival in New York that we got to sort of workshop it,
Mhm.
and I developed it there. And then during the pandemic, I wanted to still continue to work on it because we were like, oh yeah, we got all of this great insight from the New York Festival. Let's put it up on stage. But it was 2020, and that did not happen. Um, so I got to do another workshop with it at Alumni,
Yeah.
Next Stages, where I did some more development, and I was like, I really want to put this up. Like I've been sitting on it for what we're in 20, like yeah, 5 years. So it was just like, I'm not waiting around for funding. Let's do it. Let's get it going.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you're mentioning that because I think it's important that people know that there's usually a lot of work that goes into doing productions, even if it is something like this where you're deciding to mount the production yourselves, as a production company, Hard-Bitten Productions, and that you've had the opportunity to go to another a festival in New York and you workshopped it here, and there's the feedback that audiences give you even at the early stages is important. So maybe kind of maybe you could share a little bit about that in terms of like what was the feedback you received from those two sort of workshopping presentations that now you feel this is kind of more what you wanted to share with the rest of us.
Okay. So the play has changed quite a bit. I think when I took it to New York, just very briefly, a summary of the show. It's about this young woman. She's a singer. She really wants to make it big, but she ends up she ends up leaving, running away from home, going to Europe. So this is where you kind of get the Eartha Kitt thread a bit in there to really make it big, but she doesn't. And in that time, her mother passes away, and she finds out she has an inheritance. So she comes back home, and it's sort of this is where this mother-daughter relationship comes
Mm,
in. And a lot of what I was exploring when it was in New York was that I don't know, maybe feminist idea though that you can do it all. And it's like, how true is that that you
mm,
can do it all?
right.
Really? And really looking at like, well, what does he do? What does she do? Like when you have a kid, like where is the imbalance there? So
Mhm.
in New York, in this American audience, I found that a lot of the older audience really did not like the choices she made because
Oh,
she does not follow the traditional route of like, well, I'm going to stay home and raise a family. It is a she's a the lead character is a complicated character and she makes choices that are very questionable. And so there was a big divide, I would say, in the audience. There were a lot of younger women in the audience who were like, "Yeah, I kind of get why she did that. That makes a lot of sense to me." So I really wanted to, when I took it away from New York, I was like, I need to find more sympathy for her. I don't want her to just be like a villain. She's awful. She's a horrible person. So that's what I really worked on. And I think when I brought it to alumni, some of that work came through. And mind you, alumni is theater aimed at women's work.
yes.
These are women artists. So I think they were able to relate to it a little bit better.
Mhm.
That idea of like choosing career maybe first over other family responsibilities. So
Exactly.
I am curious to know what people are going to think of it now that it's shifted a bit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I'm always very curious as to where it started, where it's going, and how we take it in. And I think there's always going to be some generational differences in how we respond to art, whichever format. So I'm not surprised about, what you said about the older audience members in New York and the difference in terms of maybe having more of a female representation in the audience or who's giving you feedback as well.
Mhm.
So now that you're kind of gearing up your production of Dear Miss Kid is going to be here in Toronto soon. Actually, you're doing previews already, so congrats. What's been your discussions with the director, also named Chantel, and sort of the cast because you're there, you're the playwright. These are your words, and now you're able to see them come to life again.
Yeah, Chantal has been amazing. She took it. It is like her show, her vision, and I love that. I like just giving everyone the freedom to explore.
Mhm,
One of the things, even the lead actor, Janae, who plays Nina, that's the
mhm.
character's name, she's brought so much charisma and humor to it that I didn't see initially.
Nice.
But I love that. But it is its own show. Like it's completely different from the
Right.
director in New York. He had a dance background. So
Mm,
it was very movement focused, whereas Chantal, she directs pantomime and musicals. So we were able to bring up that musical element more and like how
yeah.
can we work in what music means to this family, how it's woven in, because everyone in the family is sort of musical, right? You have Nina, the lead, chasing that dream that her father had attained, that level of fame that now the little girl in the show, she wants to be a star. And so it's like
Yeah.
everyone's sort of chasing this dream and maybe like losing that connection or trying to
Sure.
keep it together. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they've taken that. It's really cool what they've done. I'm excited for people to come see it. I'm excited to see it too, like in its full,
Mhm.
with the lighting, with the sound design, with the musician. Yeah.
That sounds really interesting, and I'm glad that you mentioned the aspects that a director can also bring based on their own experience as well, in the theater that they work in. Were Are there any musical references that have always been important to you that are incorporated in the show, whichever version it is?
Um, I did, I know because I know I'm writing for independent theater. I did not make specific references because I'm
Yes.
like, ooh, licensing costs. I don't want like let me see what creativity. So I did not do that. No. Um, so yeah, like for instance in New York, it was a soundscape. They had someone on the side doing like live soundscape, and whereas this we have a piano player who's improvising, taking sort of riffs off of
Mm,
songs, but I would say probably the song in it that is referenced is This Christmas, Donny Hathaway. And this Christmas
mm.
will
Yeah, that
be.
song.
I'm not a singer, but yeah. Yeah, if anything, I think this is probably more of a holiday show, but
Mm.
no timing, theater space availability.
It's also people say sometimes Christmas in July. It could also be holiday time in August, based on our current temperatures.
I know the temperature drops, so maybe it'll fit right in. Like, keep
Um,
it
it's
cold.
also a state of mind, right? In terms of and I find that with this music, I know there's a reference to Eartha Kitt here, as you mentioned, and these other artists of especially Black female singers and artists that were not always getting their dues, but it's nice to be able to hear that music or those references wherever we can to remind ourselves of where music comes from. Would you say that I know Eartha Kitt's character is more of a reference in this show, but would you say that is something that is still discussed with the cast and the director when you were starting to plan this production?
Yeah, it was more like how um some characters like are following this sort of path
Mhm.
her life, like the idea of there are restraints here, like I'm going to just say in America to encompass Canada, America,
Yeah.
um, because she did have to deal with the Jim Crow, and then she felt that she was blacklisted by the Kennedys, and that's why she went to Europe, where they
Mhm.
were just more accepting of her. So we have, Nina, the main character who goes to Europe to like try and make it on her own, like make her own name. So
Mhm.
it's more linked in that way, and
Yes.
then the idea as well that there's this woman who broke all of these stereotypes. Like I can break out of my circumstances. That's also like a theme that's there with several of the characters. So
Mhm. And you
yeah.
mentioned that some of the characters are surprising you and how they're finding some humor, for example, in Mina character. Anything else that's surprising you in a good way, with the cast or even the design of the production?
Oh, definitely with the cast, they just gel really well together. I'm really happy with everyone that we got. Um, and they are finding like moments of humor and connection that are really important, I think, to keep the play moving. Chantel's helping them to find those moments.
Mhm.
But the sort of symbolic, I guess, set that she has designed is also really cool. We have like these records and stuff, these vinyls that are connected with these strings, which I think is symbolic of like what is connecting these family members,
Right,
music. We have I haven't seen it yet with all the lighting and everything,
right,
so
that's
I'm
true.
also excited to see that. But we have Simran Kapoor who's designing the lighting for the show, who I'm sure will do an amazing job with it. Yeah, yeah, I would say yeah, it's gonna be like a sort of different and really good view of the play. They've definitely lifted it into something that I didn't see before, and so that's always really great.
Right. And I mean, in Toronto, we're lucky to have really diverse audiences, and and points of view, which I really do appreciate in the arts that we have here. What does it mean to you to be able to mount the production of this play that you wrote, that you kind of have grown up with a little bit, and have a cast that you have that is representative of the culture that you want to speak to, but also open it up to folks like myself who, are maybe not of the Black community, but are aware of the artistry of some of the references like Eartha Kitt.
Um, I it's interesting because in the actual script itself, it's not written that it's black
Mm,
at all, like nowhere. But it is. I am a black playwright, and I did want to cast black actors and make it as true to what I grew up with.
right.
Um, that was very important for me is to create work and create work for people like me. So, but I guess because I did have the opportunity to see like how it was received from the American audience, is
Mhm.
that we had a diverse group. It's New York, right? And people did relate to it, and it was really more like the family relationships and like her choices, and she struggles with alcoholism. Like there are so many different points to relate to for so many different people that it
Yeah.
wasn't restrictive at all, even though it is specific.
Sure. Yes. That makes sense. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you're also, for me, I think it's interesting in a good way that you're also saying it's my chance to do a production. I'm not gonna wait for it, for maybe some other additional support, which I find that we don't often talk about in the city, and there are so many opportunities that maybe get missed for us as audience members, to experience theater that is made by creators like yourself. So. It's kind of nice that you're able to mount it now. What are your hopes in terms, you kind of already alluded to in how people were receiving the play in New York and elsewhere, but what is your hope that we kind of take away from seeing this production, and maybe what's next?
With this production, I really am hoping it it is a drama, but I'm really hoping people walk away with a sense of hope. And I think that I that is there.
Mhm.
It depends on how you look at it, but that is there, and that it's and I hope that you see like the hope in just being able to change your circumstances and take control. I would say that is something that throughout this entire process, like being able to take control of what you want to do, your opportunities, and not needing to get that permission. I
Mm.
hope that
Mhm.
resonates with folks. And I'm taking a break after this. It's been like a whirlwind. It's just been. So I'm taking a break after this. And then I'll be going back to writing maybe something else.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll be able to put this up again. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna take
Mhm.
it easy for a bit, sort of explore my options. But this was definitely something that was important to me um, to put up.
That makes sense. And I mean, I'm very curious too. I'm looking forward to attending a production. So we'll see how that energy in the theater is once
Okay.
everything is like lights go off and then they come back on.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna remind folks that yeah, the performances are from August 20th to the 24th at Aki Studio here in Toronto. There's a website for Hard-Bitten Productions, right, where people can find details.
Yeah.
Um, Anything social media wise that you kind of want to make sure that we mention so people know where to find more information and follow.
Yep. Everything is basically on the website, hardbittenproductions.com. Also on our Instagram at hardbitten productions.
Nice.
And on Aki's website as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Chantel, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for like meeting and speaking with me.
My pleasure. Thank you.